And today we want to discuss very interesting question in light of recent event that's been happened. And yes, so it is about acquiring citizenship, not in the normal ways, but offered by the Prime Minister.
Yeah, and just and good to Juan. I'm glad that you brought that up. It's actually just to kind of give our audience a bit of background. We always bring our episodes of Crystal Cast every Friday, and yesterday in the afternoon, we actually received a question that I'm going to read out to you. George, thanks so much for sending it through. So I'm going to read out as it is. Hey Ross, hope you're going well. My question is, given the recent media hype about the Frenchman Damien Gouraud allegedly being granted permanent residency solely due to his bravery using the bollard during the Bondi Junction Westfield incident, the question is, on what basis can someone obtain permanent residency in any situation like this? Is it fact or fiction? Now, George, thank you so much for sending through that question. And we do encourage our listeners and our viewers to send in questions because we do want to make it as engaging, as interactive as possible. So the crux here is, obviously we're talking about what has happened in Bondi, and I do want to be very clear. I don't want to make this episode about what happened in Bondi. Yeah. I don't feel that it's appropriate, but it is a good question in relation to what power does the minister have? And I think there's been quite a bit of discussion around, granting him citizenship and to what extent do we go and just sort of grant someone citizenship? So I think it's important to break down, well, how does one acquire citizenship? Now, you get that through Citizenship Act.
Yeah. So obviously by birth, by conferral, and
you've got descent as well.
Yes.
Yep. And then there's we did obviously our research to ensure that we provided correct information.
Right.
And based on the Citizenship Act of 2007, there are powers where the citizenship can be renounced, for example, but there's no explicit power in the Citizenship Act that we could see that gives the minister explicit permission to grant someone citizenship.
Yeah, or the Prime Minister in this case, because what happened was, yes, it was an act of bravery, and obviously this is to be praised and deserves a reward.
Yeah.
However, I think the media, it was a bit confusing because people thought that he was going to be granted the citizenship by the Prime Minister, and obviously there was an updated news saying that the Prime Minister actually cannot grant citizenship.
I think the PR team might have got into a bit of a damage by anyone. Well, actually, we can't grant citizenship, and the Prime Minister can't explicitly give you citizenship.
All provisions for the Minister for Immigration to grant citizenship, just like that. However, there will be avenues.
Yeah, exactly, and that's what I wanted to discuss today. I was very intrigued by the question, and I actually spoke with a couple of colleagues, a couple of our own staff members as well, and I was told a story about an incident that happened in Ireland where someone was given a particular immigration status where a similar event has happened, and there was an incident in another jurisdiction, so something similar happened in France.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So it's, I suppose, even if you look back even further, and not to get too philosophical, but there have been many instances where one gets rewarded for bravery in relation to a specific act or circumstance.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's unusual in terms of what the Prime Minister has said, but I think we need to take a step back and think, well, how's it going to work in practice?
Yeah, in practice and according to the laws and regulations.
Yeah.
But just going back to the point before, Ross, I think, look, what happened, the incident was actually very shocking to the whole country. And to actually see somebody that had such a good role and brave role during that episode, the whole country in the middle of this shock is gonna think, wow, like this person actually deserves something.
Yeah.
And that's the spirit behind the Prime Minister quickly jumping in and saying, okay, you can stay here. for as long as you want.
Yeah, it's I suppose it is a remote emotional reaction. And look, how do you tell someone how to react to a situation like this?
Exactly.
You know, we spoke off camera yesterday, and one of the things that we said is that we're lucky that in Australia we don't see this kind of event happening on a regular basis. So I suppose it is a unique situation. But from a legal perspective, so we're looking at Citizenship Act, and when you look at it, there's no. The fact is, there's no provision that says a prime minister may grant you citizenship just like that. So that's a fact.
Yeah.
So we need to also have a look at, well, is there any other avenue, like you said? Now, obviously there are avenues such as becoming a permanent resident. So when one becomes a permanent resident, the obvious pathway would be to then become a citizenship after fulfilling a residency requirement. So potentially one of the options that could be, and we don't know the details, is that if permanent residency is granted, then there would be an avenue for citizenship, and that would probably be the most straightforward pathway. And if an individual doesn't meet requirements for a particular visa, we also need to keep in mind that there is ministerial intervention.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's the point we wanted to speak about, because it was disclosed in the news that Damien was having some issues with visa applications. We don't have the details of what that is, but one avenue could be, let's say, perhaps applying for a ministerial intervention.
Exactly. Yeah.
Straight away. And obviously he has been granted the favor. They maybe have a look at that application quite quickly.
Yeah.
And that's when the power of the minister
To intervene.
intervene can be actioned and livened and grant this individual a visa.
And you know what? That's probably the most likely sort of scenario that's going to happen, because we've done a number of ministry intervention applications. But whenever I present CPD topics and ministry interventions, I always say these numbers need to remain in single digits, because these are unique and exceptional cases. And this particular case would fit into ministry intervention quite neatly, because, well, it is a matter of national interest.
Yeah.
There's definitely support behind it. And assuming that the person has been granted permanent residency is not a security threat or a risk, then what the minister could do is they could grant a visa where regular criteria would not be satisfied. So say, for example, just to sort of keep it very simple, if someone had a Section 48 bar imposed and they couldn't get a particular visa, you can actually, the minister can waive that bar. The visa could be granted. So I think what's important to keep in mind is that there may not be citizenship granted straight away, but there might be an avenue where the minister intervenes to ensure that a pathway is created, because it's in the national interest to do so, for this individual to have an avenue towards citizenship.
Yeah, and I think the whole nation, the whole country definitely is interested in that, you know, like in fulfilling, for this individual to fulfill that in the public interest.
Yeah.
You know, for him to have this visa.
Yeah, definitely. And keeping it relevant to immigration, I think this is also a great example in terms of, well, what sort of cases should go before the minister? What's the bar? And this is, you know, this is the threshold. We've seen a number of cases that have gone to the minister before where there's been a wide media coverage. You know, there's a number of refugee cases and protection visa cases where individuals have been in detention center for a lengthy period of time, probably too many to list on an episode, and then they were granted not necessarily permanent residency, but perhaps even a bridging visa to allow them to leave detention center. But the common factor here has always been that national interest, and media obviously does play quite a big role. And with media, I suppose it's one of those things, isn't it, when the story takes off and there's that push, you know, give this person citizenship, give them permanent residency. It does add that level of pressure to intervene. That is what ministry intervention is.
Absolutely,
because the public wants the minister to intervene and do something about the situation.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see the result of this petition, and this offer has been granted. And
Yeah, exactly. And I'm really thankful that we got a question of the week that generated, I suppose, an entire episode. And please do keep those questions coming. They are very important to us. We do feature them on episodes. And let's see how everything goes. Thank you, Juan.
Thank you, Ross.